On May 28th, Antipope Francis approved and participated in a pagan Buddhist prayer event in the ancient Basilica of Santa Maria in Trastevere. Antipope Francis was even, quote, blessed by the Buddhist monks during the event. This is one of the worst things Antipope Francis has done, and that's saying quite a lot. This basilica is one of Rome's oldest churches, dating back to the 4th century. We will see why that's significant. It's said to be the oldest church in Rome dedicated to the Blessed Virgin Mary. Buddhism is a pagan non-Christian religion that leads people to hell, not to heaven. The recent act of Francis was certainly not his first statement or action with regard to Buddhism that was tantamount to heresy or apostasy. Like other pagans, the worship of Buddhists is false and idolatrous. See Psalm 95:5 and 1 Corinthians 10:20 concerning how pagans worship demons, not God. To allow such pagan worship, or to participate in it in any way, is mortally sinful and has always been condemned by Catholic teaching. It's an act of apostasy. On May 27th, the day before the pagan prayer event, Antipope Francis met with a delegation of 100 Buddhist monks. He told them that, quote, we can only be saved together, with no mention, of course, that they must give up their false religion and convert to the Catholic faith to be saved. To tell the Buddhist monks that we can be saved together, without telling them that they need to accept the true faith of Christ and give up Buddhism, is equivalent to teaching that they can be saved as Buddhists. It's a rejection of the Catholic dogma that no one can be saved without faith in Christ and the Catholic faith. In the same address, Antipope Francis endorsed the false worship and prayer of the Buddhists, stating, quote, we believe that prayer and meditation can turn things upside down by purifying our hearts and minds. And, quote, I am very pleased that you will pray for peace tomorrow in the Basilica of Santa Maria in Trastevere. By such statements, Antipope Francis formally endorsed the Buddhist idolatrous worship, which took place the next day. Francis even bowed his head to receive their demonic, quote, blessing and participate in their false worship. That is active participation in pagan worship. The Catholic Church has never allowed Catholics to take part in non-Catholic worship of any kind, let alone pagan worship. Francis's latest act of apostasy proves again that he's not the Pope, but an apostate antipope. The Catholic Church teaches that heretics, since they are not members of the Church, are barred by divine law from the papal office. Francis was never the Pope, and the current situation in Rome was prophesied, as our material explains. Indeed, those who obstinately remain in communion with this notorious heretic and apostate faker, that is, Antipope Francis, deny the Catholic faith. Such a person joins himself to heresy and paganism. By the way, Francis's endorsement of Buddhism comes from the teaching of Vatican II itself, a false council, and it's found in the false teaching of the other Vatican II antipopes, such as Paul VI, Benedict XVI, and John Paul II. This act of Francis fulfills prophecy because the Bible tells us that the beast, which refers to pagan Rome, returns in the last days. In the 1st century, the beast, that is pagan Rome / the pagan Roman Empire, persecuted the Christian church at Rome. Then the beast was conquered and replaced by Christian Rome and Christian Europe. Christian society then flourished and the gospel was preached to the nations. However, the Bible indicates that the beast, that is pagan Rome, will return in the last days, but under the guise and appearance of the church, that is by means of a counter-church and heretical antipopes. This return of the beast under the appearance of the church, that is by means of a counter-church, shocks and confuses many, and that's what we're seeing now in Rome during this Vatican II apostasy. It's no accident that this notorious act of paganism occurred in such a historic Roman basilica. It's another clear example of how paganism has returned to the historic sites from which it was extirpated when Christianity / Catholicism took over the Roman Empire. That, in connection with many related events, represents the return of the beast, that is the return of pagan Rome. In fact, during a restoration of the basilica under Pope Pius IX, after scholars identified the faces of pagan idols on the columns of the basilica, the Pope had those faces hammered off. That was another example of how the beast, pagan Rome, was conquered by Christian Rome and Christian Europe. But now, in the final days, paganism has returned to those very places from which it was removed, in accord with prophecy. However, the Catholic Church still exists, but it's not the Vatican II sect of Antipope Francis. The true Catholic Church has been reduced to a remnant in the final days. Francis's sect is the end-times counterchurch, the prophesied whore of Babylon, and the fulfillment of these prophecies in Rome proves, rather than disproves, Catholicism. The fulfillment of these prophecies in Rome proves traditional Catholicism because when Christianity replaced the pagan Roman beast and the gospel spread to the world, Rome was Catholic. That indicates that Catholicism is not the beast, but rather that which conquers the beast. But in the last days, during the prophesied great apostasy, the beast returns to Rome under the deceptive appearance of the church by means of a counterchurch and false successors of St. Peter, that is, antipopes. We explain more about this in our videos such as Apocalypse Now in the Vatican and others. To be a true Christian and be saved, one must be a traditional Catholic, as our material explains.